first time, but it would not work the second time. So
Hmm.
we're back to
We
laptop.
are back. Okay, so who's got? Well, you guys have the heads up this time. Hats off. Hats off.
I do. Kara, you go first because I just have to arrange my a couple thoughts here.
Okay. Yeah, I just was looking at some news stories and was intrigued by the headline that said vegan butcher offers meatless meat.
Vegan
I'll say that
what?
again. Vegan butcher offers meatless meat. They're called the Herbivorous Butcher. And
It sounds like a serial killer.
kind of does.
The herbivorous butcher has struck again.
Wait, back up. What is there to butcher?
Plants,
There's
honey.
Meatless meat.
You see, Jen, the plants put the lotion on its skin,
No.
or else.
Yeah. So then he said,
Doesn't it need to be like concocted or made? I don't know.
yes. I assume that I watched a video actually, and they didn't really tell me what was in the meatless meat. But they did say people are so careful about what goes in their body, so I think they'll be very interested in this. And then I thought, so they're gonna want something that's not meat but looks like it, but we don't know what's in it. I'm so careful what goes in my body that I'm putting this random thing that looks like meat but is not meat in it instead.
Right, that's probably full of soy and who knows what.
I think what you're missing here, Kara, is the fact that these vegans are, in fact, butchering plants.
Dun dun dun.
You know what? When I was a youth leader way back in the day, good grief, like a long time ago at this point, I remember we were stopped off at a Hardee's on our way. We were going somewhere on some trip, some youth group trip, and we stopped off at Hardee's, and it was me, another guy named Ben, and another girl whose name I can't even remember. I can only remember the nickname we gave her because of our stop at Hardee's. So we're sitting there at the table, and it's Hardee's, so it's a burger joint, right? And so we get our burgers, and this is right about when salads being a thing at fast food restaurants was kind of starting to be a thing. And so she got this salad, and we started poking fun at her for going to fast food joint and getting a salad. And she was like, she kind of hemmed and hawed. She's a teenager, so she's kind of shy, a little wallflowerish. And she said, I'm a vegetarian. And Ben, without missing a beat, and I've been saying this for years since then, so thank you, Ben. Without missing a beat, he goes, so are you a vegetarian because you love animals or because you hate plants? and she stops and she goes, I guess I hate plants. And he goes, that's right, tree killer. And that became her nickname for the next.
Tree killer.
She was a freshman, so that became her nickname in the youth group for the next 4 years was tree killer. I can't even remember her real name.
That is what an awesome spin on vegetarianism.
When you think about it, cows are slowly killing us with their methane gas, so we have to kill them, or they're going to take us out, right?
Yes, of course.
Trees slowly releasing oxygen into the atmosphere to help us live.
Away carbon monoxide.
Taking our carbon dioxide in.
Dioxide.
This is only vaguely related, but I think it's a great story, and I think you guys will enjoy it, and I'm going to keep it short. Because it's funny. So way back in the day, probably about the same time as your story happened, roughly about the same time, I went, it was my first year, my first winter at a new church that I was just getting involved with, the one I go to now, where I've been for a long time. So it's been a while. And we went on a ski trip to this ski resort in Canada. And I'm going to skip the entire trip because nothing exciting happened on that trip. But on the way home, I guess the only notable thing about the people that I was with is they're as unlikely a name as this is. There were 2 girls on the trip named Shanda. Okay, Shanda is not Lisa.
Were both of these girls black?
No, they were both white.
Wow.
Shanda.
Shanda.
Not Shonda.
Not
or
even
something.
one of them was black.
No.
I just the odds of that happening are really slim.
Well, it's really slim.
And
also
going on a ski.
because
Well, you said it was a ski trip, so that
it was a ski trip at a church in Troy. I mean, how many? I mean, what are you gonna do?
Way
Anyway,
back in the day too. Yeah. So
way back in the day, yeah. So, so there were two girls on the trip named Shanda, and one of them was, dare I say, attractive Shanda, and the other was less attractive Shanda.
Oh,
Oh.
pretty Shanda and ugly Shanda. That's
Poor
rough.
ugly Shanda.
I wouldn't say
You're not still
ugly
friends with Shanda, are you? Because that would be rough if she was listening to this.
No. I mean, I'm Facebook friends with Pretty Shanda, but she lives 3,000 miles away, so it doesn't matter. How far is California from here? It's not 3,000, but it's a long way. Anyway, so less attractive Shanda was an EMT. Okay, so we were there on the long weekend. I believe it was Martin Luther King weekend because you can get like 3 full days of skiing in January. And that, by the way, is what white people do for MLK Day.
Of course.
Go
Do
skiing.
the whitest thing possible.
Right.
Nothing
Sure.
celebrates.
This is what they fought for.
This is not what
So-
I do.
So it's Monday night, and so it's the last day of the weekend. So it's Monday night, and we're coming back from this place in Ontario called Collingwood. Look it up, Google Maps. You'll see it's not super close. It's like 6 hours away.
I'm not even gonna Google it.
Yeah. No, fine. Take my word for it. It's like
Okay.
5,
I
6
trust
hours
you.
away. And it's snowing. It's snowing pretty hard. And so it's turning a 6-hour trip into like an 8-hour trip. And we were going to drive straight through, but we want to, we're hungry. And so we're going to stop for dinner. But Shanda does not want to stop
Pretty
for
or
dinner.
ugly Shanda?
This is ugly Shanda.
Okay.
Shanda,
You gotta differentiate.
right, you're right. Okay.
Because I have a view in my head of what these two women look like.
Okay. Well, you're probably right.
One is a mutant, the other is a supermodel.
So Shanda, who I previously said was an EMT and has to, I don't know if she had an early shift or whatever, but she did not intend on stopping for dinner on the way home from this place 7 hours away. Because, I mean, am I wrong to think that most 7-hour trips are usually broken up by a meal?
Maybe.
But so we decide to stop, and she throws a fit. She just starts yelling, and she just, I mean, it was
Typical ugly Shanda.
right. It was unhinged. Okay, just unhinged. Her sitting in the passenger seat of this 15-passenger van, just going nuts about stopping for dinner. So we stopped at this place for dinner, and we went inside. Well, when I say we went inside, most of us went inside. Shanda ugly Shanda sat outside in a van that was turned off in single-degree temperatures, boycotting the meal. And
Wow.
She showed you.
Was she
Yeah,
like
right.
hashtag Hardy is so white? I don't know.
Hardy, so I don't know if there's a moral to that story, but I was gonna say that to this day there's a select group of people that we refer to as Shanda and evil Shanda. It's not so much ugly because the ugliness that mattered was in her heart.
Oh, so okay, so yours
That's the worst kind. That can't be overcome.
straight to the soul.
Wow.
Straight to the soul.
So I want the record to reflect that most of the time that I was going to take for my hats off has been taken up by the Shanda boycott story.
No, it was great. It was great.
But I did want to say hats off to the Transportation Safety Association, or TSA, as we call them. Now, a lot of people,
These are the guys who pat you down at the airport.
a lot of people, yes, these are the guys that pat you down at the airport, or pat you up at the airport, or take intrusive photos and are generally the villains of any trip,
Right.
right? Say hats off to the TSA because I found this story that, and it's not even one particular one, it's happened about 4 times in the last year where they have seized at the gate a particular weapon from carry-on luggage. And that weapon is a Klingon bat'leth.
No.
Yes.
This is awesome.
So like 4 different people. Now, for those of you who have little experience
I'm sorry. Hold
with
on.
Star Trek,
I want you to continue this. Kara, are you petting a cat?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Oh,
I was like, something's moving. Something's moving
Yeah.
here. I'm taking momentum out of this story. I'm sorry, Kent, but I saw something, and at first I thought she was holding like a fur or a mink like shoulder thing, and then it was moving, and I was like, okay, there is a cat. Okay,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it were a mink stole and she were stroking it. That would be better.
Speaking of aliens, not Klingons, Alf started watching Alf the other day on Netflix. Alf loves to eat cats.
He does.
Moving on.
He does.
Back to the
Recipe for
Klingon
life.
bat'leth. How in the
Right.
hell did they get it in a carry-on first?
Big
Those
carry
things were
on.
big.
Right. Now, for anybody, and when I say anybody, I really mean Jen and Kara.
Thank you.
For anybody unfamiliar with Star Trek, Klingons, who you've probably heard of, Klingons are a warrior species based largely on samurai culture, who have a ceremonial weapon called the bat'leth, which is held by 2 hands and is just spiky points everywhere.
I'm showing Jen a picture of it right now.
Okay, you show her a picture. There's no safe way to use the bat'leth, and as you can see from and Kara, you can see because it's on the screen right now. It's a bad idea to have one on an airplane.
Oh dear, yes.
But if you were to die on an airplane from a bat'leth, I would hope to God, if it happened, I mean, first, the story would be amazing that they would tell in the news. Like, man attacks people on a plane with Klingon battle sword called a bat'leth. I would hope if you were to die that day, you would say, well, today is a good day to die.
Today is a good day to die.
It's large. It's like it's very tall, right?
It's probably, I mean, when a full-grown man is holding one with 2 hands, it's probably 5 feet wide.
I would think that you would have like a guitar case shaped like a bat'leth to take this onto your plane.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
A
And now that
bat'leth-shaped guitar case.
I've given, see, this is what happens during Hats Off, where you start to reconsider. Now that I've given TSA the award for seizing these things, I really want to try and get one on a plane.
I think you should give the hats off to the person with the audacity to take one.
I know. So hats off to the story. I'm not sure who deserves it, but
Somebody definitely does.
Somebody deserves
Yes.
it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the story that Jen had brought up. It was a BuzzFeed video. Hopefully all of you got to see it. It was a little 3-minute video. And Jen, take it away.
thanks, Cal. Oh, okay.
Okay. It was just a video that pretty much posed the question to a bunch of different couples, and it wasn't just romantic couples. It was like a dad and a daughter and just different people, that are in different kinds of relationships and different ages and all of that. And it pretty much asked, is your phone or your mobile devices, etc., are they ruining your relationships or are they taking away from them? And so they went ahead and posed an experiment. First, they interviewed people about their phones, and one says the other one's addicted to their phones, yada yada. They're both use their phones, one maybe more so than the next. And then they do an experiment where they aren't supposed to use their phones for a period of time, like a road trip or date or different things, and then talk to everybody after. And it's interesting because at first everybody has kind of a hard time with it, and then once they acclimate and adjust, they actually really enjoyed the experience and being in that moment, being present, and kind of open their eyes that they're not very present most of the time. And so at the beginning of the video, it gives some statistics like the average person checks their phone 150 times a day and things like that. So it just poses the question and the discussion of, are our phones taking away or ruining, minimizing, whichever, our relationships?
Anybody?
Well,
Can't
I
get
mean,
my phone.
I think yes to some. I definitely like. Not to pick on Todd, he's not here, but I feel like my husband's on his phone too much because he'll have sports on TV and then he'll have a game on his phone, and I kind of like have taken a step back from being on my phone as much. I used to be on it all the time, and then I was just very aware of like all the little moments I was missing with my son, and he was always asking me to like pay attention to him, and I was looking at my phone. I didn't need to be. I was just like killing time. I could have been doing other fun things like talking to him or playing with him. So I do think that like I think it's an addiction for some people, and you do have to like really set boundaries in relationships to say we're gonna go out to dinner and not have our phones with us, or we're gonna no phones at the dinner table. But I do want to say on the flip side, there are people that like friends that I text pretty regularly, and that's really our only relationship. Like one of my really good friends from college, we are constantly like texting each other pop culture, just references and quotes from some of our favorite shows, and I don't know that I would be as close to her without my phone. So like it can be a really valuable tool in maintaining some relationships, but it definitely is a distraction in other situations.
I watched the video, and I came up with 5 questions, I think, and some of them won't mean as much to people who haven't seen the video. So you really should stop the podcast right now, and you should watch the video, and you should come back. Ready? Welcome back. So the questions that I've got are this. One. We know this was a Hyundai commercial, right? I mean, I don't think it was a real experiment.
It wasn't a scientific experiment in that sense, where they had control groups and all that kind of thing. Yes, it was a commercial.
Yes, okay. That said, so this one girl who was doing the experiment with with her father, who probably non-threatening Asian male from the casting group, but we're going to call her the father from for the purposes of this conversation. She was super upset about getting on a helicopter that didn't have any door. But the door was open. She could have shut the door at any moment, right? I mean, she just didn't close it. Like she's Joel in Jetcopter 7. All right, but anyway, I also find myself wondering why or how those two lesbians found each other, because one's British. But I'm going to get to the phone thing in a second. All right, one's British, one's American.
Because British and American people have never met each other before.
The pool is a little smaller, I'm just saying. I've never seen a 65-year-old woman so into her cell phone. She was easily my mother's age.
True story. My job at Apple was training old people how to not be frustrated with their. I can't use this thing. I can't use it.
I've seen some people though, like they're very into Facebook or phones or whatever, and they're older.
Just don't know how to use Facebook right still. It's like, Mom, stop sending me invites to Farmville.
That doesn't mean they're not obsessed with them.
And I think the most important question that I got from the video is why do I still have an iPhone 6, and why am I such a loser? Okay, but on a more serious...
Way to engage the question, yes.
Yes. On a more serious note, I mean, do I check my phone 150 times a day? No, because I'm probably awake for 17 hours, and that would be Well, yeah, I check my phone 150 times a day. Yeah, I totally do. I mean,
He's doing the math in his head.
I'm doing, yeah. Okay, well, all right, so that being said, that was my last comment, I guess. The numbers are right.
Here's the thing, like, I don't check my phone 150 times a day.
I call bullcrap.
I don't check my phone 150 times a day. I check it for really, really long times.
Yes.
Like I feel like I don't put my phone enough. I feel like I don't put my phone down enough to actually check it 150 times. I'm just always on it. And so, so there's you're calling the bull crap. Like I'm actually just always on my phone. My phone is off right. Well, it's on, but it's somewhere around so I can do the podcast. But as of right now, I'm still wondering what kind of text messages I'm getting. I know I'm getting some because my wrist is buzzing because I have an Apple Watch on, but I'm trying to pay attention to what we're doing. So, I think when it comes to the phone, I agree with you, Kara, in terms of, hey, you know what? It can take away from things for sure. There's time you could be spending with your son. There's time when you could be spending with your kids. I had my niece over here all weekend, and she was on her phone the whole time. But I was on mine the whole time, right? And I kept feeling guilty, like I should be doing something with her. The reason she comes here is because I'm like a father figure to her, and I'm on my phone and she's on hers.
It made it easier on you though. Like,
yeah.
You didn't have to put any effort in.
Yeah, she was fine too. She was fine. She was like, I'm just watching this TV show on Netflix. And I was like, okay, cool. And she'd never complained. She loved it. Like, okay, well, cool. But
you didn't have to do anything.
No, I didn't have to do anything. But I think in terms of relationships, it's interesting. Without even talking about relationships, real quick, just some things that I've put in place have ended up backfiring on me or not working the way that I intended them to. For instance, my phone, I was constantly getting notifications, right? So I turned off a bunch of notifications that, I don't really go into that app all the time anyway, so I don't need that notification. I don't need to have everything from the BBC or Fox News or whatever news channel I have, MSNBC, all these people have notifications. I'll turn it all off. If I want to go read the news there, I will, okay? That kind of worked out. But then I turned off notifications for my text messages, right? Because I was like, okay, text message notification comes in, I have to answer it right now. I need to know what is being said and by who, okay? Well, then I turned off notifications. I turned off the buzzer. So now I don't even get like a number of how many text messages I have. But if I go into my text messages, I will find that I have 9 or 10 text messages. And so now that I don't have the notification, I'm wondering who might be texting me.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me go into the phone, checks to see, okay, well maybe nobody, okay, so nobody's texting me right now. Then I get sad that nobody's texting me. So I mean, it's. I think it's actually made me, by taking the notifications off and trying to be more present, it's made me less present because I'm always checking my phone to see if someone has texted me. I was doing this to be more present, and it has not worked.
I have wondered about. I've wondered if that story, if that story you just told, answers a question that I've had. Not a super important question because it's not important enough to ask, but I'll bring it up in front of everybody. And that is, Cal, I've always found it a little weird. You never text me. You Facebook message me, and it comes to my phone like a text message, and we've got each other's numbers. And so I just wonder if that's preferable for some reason. Does it have anything to do with
it's not. That's the crazy thing. I would rather text you, and for some reason it's because I see you pop up on Facebook. That's when I think, oh right, I am friends with Kent, and so then I will text you.
Oh,
but for the most part, I talk to a few people on Facebook when I see them. Other than that, I don't generally text them. Like one of my best friends is Justin, and I don't really text him. I will Facebook him when I see him on Facebook. That's pretty much it. But then there are plenty of people with whom I do both. Like with Jen, she's always sending me some meme or something, so I need to read it anyway, and then I'm there already, so I'll start talking to her. I've got a friend, Emily, who I went to college with, who I'll text every now and again on Facebook. But Jen, I'll text on both, but then there are some people that I exclusively text. And I don't do anything on Facebook, even though we are friends on Facebook. So I don't know. There's no method to the madness. It's just kind of, I see you there, and then I start talking to you. And it's weird. Are you passive-aggressively telling me that you would like me to text you? Because I can still text you from my phone and from my laptop at your phone.
I can't stress enough how little this matters. Because either way,
now on are coming from my phone.
It comes to the phone.
Yeah, but you got to switch apps and everything, so.
I suppose so.
Such a burden to switch between apps.
All right.
Oh my gosh. Anyhow, that's my thoughts so far. Jen, I mean, you brought up the conversation.
Well, I do think it takes away from relationships. I think that there are some relationships that are maybe easier to stay in contact with, people that have moved away, people are not here. I think that Facebook and the phone and all of the different apps, a lot of them can be a really good connector to people that aren't maybe able to be as present in our lives. And it helps reconnect people that have maybe lost touch, etc. Like, there's some really good positive spots to phones, texting, FaceTiming, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. But I definitely think that people are very caught up in having a virtual life and a virtual relationship with people, a lot of times at the expense of the actual ones. And I think that for anybody to say otherwise, like, they're either not very technologically, acclimated in those things, or they're lying, I mean, there are those people who really just don't text message and they don't do this and that, and so of course they've never gotten into that habit and that practice, and so yeah, of course they have no issue with that. But a lot of people just don't want to admit the issue, and I mean, myself included. I want to talk about Cal always text message. Like, out of the two of us, he is definitely the one who is more addicted. I mean, I can go all day and not look at my text message that I got from him sometimes. Like, when I'm at work, I don't check it.
Because she doesn't love me.
Nothing personal.
Like,
she'll ask me, did I see the meme she sent me? And I'll be like, no, and she'll get upset. But then she won't look at a text message I send her all day.
Well, I ask you that after, like, 2 or 3 days. But anyhow, like, my point is that out of the two of us, he's definitely more inclined that way. But I mean, there are times, and I think sometimes out of default, like when I get bored easily. And so I'll get bored, and that is my, like, time, like, waster, I guess. But I intentionally go to it to waste time. Like, when I'm bored, or when Cal is on his phone, I'm like, well, I might as well get mine out. Like, that's what I do. Rather than maybe cultivate some other healthier habits.
And here's something both of us do, and I'm going to throw her under the bus, but we both do it. So just before I throw her under the bus, just know we both do it. Like earlier tonight, I made dinner before we did the podcast, and so I made this nice little chicken dish, and she came home, and she sat on the couch, she's on her phone, and I'm on my phone, so no big deal. But we're both on our phones, and she says, what are we having for dinner? And I said, I made chicken pesto with broccoli and asparagus. And she's like, oh, that sounds great. That sounds delicious. I'm like, okay, cool. So then, like, I don't know, 15 minutes later, she asks me again, and I just look at her and I said, I'm not going to answer this question again for you. And she said, what? And I said, you already asked me that question. She said, you said dinner. And I said, no, I told you exactly what we're going to have. And so then I told her again, I'm making this chicken pesto, okay, and then she goes, that sounds delicious. I said, that's exacally what you said 15 minutes ago.
Okay, let me back up. One, he does this to me all the time, and second of all, he was really a smart aleck, okay? So
I don't believe it. Never.
I asked him what he was making, and he was like, dinner. And I was like, seriously? And he was like, what? So then I sat down on the couch, and I zoned him out. And apparently had this, I apparently replied accordingly subconsciously, and then he gives me crap about it, and so then he was like, I'm not going to answer that, and I was like, why are you being like that, right?
I had already told her.
But this is what happened. So then I do this, and he tells me the whole story after, and he was like, I'm going to use that
I'm
on
going to
the
use
podcast.
the podcast tonight.
And I'm like, seriously, you do this to me all the time.
And this is why
He always is like, he'll talk about something, or I'll be talking to him. It'll be a real serious thing, like I need him to listen, and then he'll just look up and he'll be like, oh, are you talking? Or he'll go, yeah. And then he'll look up after a couple minutes and he'll go, I'm sorry, I'm not listening to you right now. Wait, like once he realizes it's important, he's like, give me a minute, and then he'll like, okay, what were you saying?
I'm more blunt about it. My mom used to say, you don't have my full attention, which is a nice way of saying it. I just look up and I just like,
she still says that.
I'm not paying attention to you right now.
Let me ask you a quick.
So we're gonna need to start this bad boy over.
Let me ask you a quick question about attention and attention span. Not to change the subject, but Cal, in your and Jen's relationship, do you ever do any cooking, and do you have any fun stories about it?
I do. So tonight, God, I hate you right now. Well done, though. Well done,
that
sir.
Was well played.
Thank you.
Kent is not like us. He very much pays attention.
Kent manages to find a way to get himself fired from this podcast every week. Every single week.
That's true.
But no, I mean, but one of the things another practice I think that I've seen, we haven't really done this with our relationship, but I've tried to do it. I try to be more conscious of it. Like when we go out, for sure. With other friends, it's funny that I do it more with my friends than I do it with the woman that I love. But with my friends, we'll go out to eat. I haven't seen them in a while. And sometimes I'll do this. I'll put my phone face down, or I'll pile all of our phones face down. And some people have this thing where, whoever reaches for their phone first has to pick up the tab or whatever. But I just try to be fully present with the people I am with. Just because, hey, you made time to be with me here. The person texting me has not made time to be with me. Now, that doesn't mean that, okay, so the person might want to make time with me, but they live in Kentucky, and so we can't. But for the most part, I try to be present with the people who have made time to be present with me. I probably do it less because we're in a relationship, so we're used to being around each other.
Let me pose that question then. So do you think that this video, like they chose people in the video that were close to each other? Mm-hmm. They didn't choose the one random person that they might put their phone down for. I think that was very intentional. I think that it's saying like the people that are the closest to us, the people that mean the most to us, we're sacrificing our time with.
Because you're so comfortable with them, you can be in the same room and be on your phones
and do nothing and say nothing.
Yeah,
and
which is like fine sometimes, but it can get out of control.
Yeah, like people do that when they're both reading a book or anything. I mean, I actually read a statement somewhere like you can tell how comfortable you are with a person by the amount of time you can let pass comfortably between you in silence.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some truth to that, but this is the catch-22.
There was a woman in my high school who, she was my high school English teacher. Her name was Miss Bulot, and she's a fantastic history teacher and English teacher. And I remember her saying one time, I'm like 15 or 16 at this point, and I remember her saying to our class, of her husband, I love my husband so much. We can be around each other and be in total silence, and I am totally happy and satisfied. And I remember just thinking, I want that. I want to be around someone who doesn't have to fill the air with noise, but someone with whom I am not annoyed when they do so. And so the interesting thing that has ended up happening is that's what I found in Jen, where we can do that, but the mediums that we tell people to put down have changed, not the fact that people pick things up. For instance, on the tours that I do this tour of this building in downtown Detroit called the Guardian Building. And it's the most beautiful building in the city of Detroit, in my humble opinion. It's designed by a guy by the name of Wirt C. Rowland, and he has all this beautiful tiling. And the building was built in 1929. And they asked, there's a lot of Pewabic tile in the building, which is a pretty famous tile, out of Michigan. And they asked Wirt C. Rowland in 1929 why he chose all these bright colors in this Art Deco building, because it wasn't, usual for Art Deco architecture, and he said, well, the reason I picked all of these bright colors is to hit people in the face with it because people never look up. They're always looking down at their newspapers. Nowadays, people are always looking down at, because you have this proliferation of information that all of a sudden was being printed by all of these newspaper companies, right? And so everybody had their face in their newspaper on their way to work. And so he wanted to do this. And so the medium has just changed, not the fact that we do this.
Okay, but wait a second. Let me back up for a second. Do you...
I'm not trying to make excuses.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
But okay, there's two differences I see. One, if I'm reading a newspaper, I'm a lot more usually fully present of what's around me in that silence, I would say, than when I'm on my phone texting and interacting. Now, I think there's that. Like, if you and I are reading together, we're both more present with each other still than if we're both on our phones. Would you agree?
If we're reading a book together?
Well, no, if we're just both reading in the same room.
I don't know that we would be.
Okay. All right, well, maybe not. I think so. Like, I think if you're reading out in nature, you're more present than when you're on your phone, distracted by, like, anyways, okay. Even if people don't agree on that, my other thought is I think that the difference of the medium now gives us a false sense of relationships and interacting with people, and therefore I think that causes a different set of issues. The paper doesn't interact with you. Like, people have all kinds of relationships that are completely digital, and I'm not taking away from them. Sometimes, again, it can connect people that wouldn't be able to be connected otherwise. However, can it give you such a false sense that you're not aware that you're not having relationships?
Let me take a brief moment here just for one tiny bit of Detroit nerdery. I like the Guardian building. I'll take the Fisher building over the Guardian building. I don't know what to tell you.
A lot of people make that mistake.
Oh, it's a mistake.
Oh.
We could talk about that offline as to why that's a mistake.
Well, I'm just saying they were both built in the late 20s and they're both Art Deco, and I don't know. It's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right?
I don't know. I mean, Fisher Building's like 3 times larger, and they ran out of money. They didn't finish it. It's still not finished.
Yeah, but I never go above the 3rd floor.
Oh, yeah, so, well, what does it matter to me? There are 2 other towers. There are 2 full towers they didn't build. But anyway.
Oh, okay.
Anyhow.
Yep.
But both were given limitless budgets. Albert Kahn did the Fisher Building. You know, but,
well, he's terrible.
That's neither here nor there.
Okay.
But way to throw things off. No, I mean, to kind of go back to what you were saying, to hit on different points. I don't think I'll hit it directly, but I guess it depends on when you're born, or when, you know, what's your medium of that time. So like the newspaper, I don't doubt that people reading the newspaper weren't as connected as we are now, because I can comment on something on Facebook and someone can comment back immediately and it can be an ongoing conversation, right? So I feel connected that way. But people had certain people that they read in the newspaper. I mean, you can go back to Dear Abby. I mean, Dear Abby, I think, is still around. People write to Dear Abby, and they feel this connection.
She's dead, but they've replaced her.
So you've got editorials where people follow the person who writes these editorials, and so they feel this closeness. You could even go to church on Sunday. Someone might not have any relationship whatsoever with the pastor. The pastor's present in the church. The pastor speaks something into their life, and so they feel like they have a relationship with that pastor. And this goes on all the time, because pastors, people get upset at the pastor of their church, even though they've got, like, other pastors, associate pastors who do, like, weddings and funerals and things like that, because the head pastor can't do them all. People get upset when the head pastor can't do it, because, oh, I feel close to this guy because he's the one preaching.
Right.
And so I think part of that, I mean, I'm trying to make a point here where we feel connected to people in different ways through different mediums, even though we're not. So I don't think the phone is any different than the newspaper, except for the immediacy of the phone. We find ways to think we're being connected to other people. I'm getting this information from this newspaper. I'm more worldly. I can have conversations with my friends at the bar about these topics, and then they're actually removing us from each other because all day long I have it in my face. I don't even take it down long enough to have those conversations at the bar with my friends about that topic I was reading about in the newspaper.
So with this foldable, rolled-up newspaper that's actually like a digital screen, what will that be?
I don't know. I don't know what that. Whatever. Anyway, Kara, your thoughts?
And what happens when we get shoes that tie themselves and
Hoverboard.
We have hoverboards.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But they explode.
Yes, they
Yeah.
do. And I love watching people fail on them. That's hilarious to me. But
It's not
I
a
was
true
gonna say,
hoverboard.
I was gonna say I like this is something that like I just really relate to because I have found myself recently really craving that time, like face-to-face time with people, putting my phone away, putting the computer away, and it's probably partly because my husband works, like 8 to 5 or 6 most days, and so when he gets home at night, like I haven't got to talk to him all day, and so I want to be very present, but he's been working all day, so he wants to like unwind and like play games and stuff and watch movies, which is great, and I love and I feel like that's good time spent sitting next to each other doing that kind of thing, but it's not the same. I definitely crave it, and it's partly because I think I'm living in a new city now. I don't have a lot of close friends yet, so before maybe I could like talk to my mom or hang out with a girlfriend, go out for coffee, and so there's something really special about like actual human interaction, like being present, like even recording this podcast and getting to look at your guys' faces while we're talking and see your reactions. It's different than if we were just talking on the phone or just writing back and forth. It feels a lot more personal and real, and it's actually easier. Like I can focus on you guys and not be like doing a bazillion other things at one time, which is rare because you're here and I can be engaged in what's happening. And so yeah, I am a big advocate personally for me to put my phone away from myself. I actually have just moved my whole charging station to the kitchen because I used to have it in my bedroom right next to my bed, but then it goes off at night and I'm like, oh, what's that? And,
right.
Or I would lay in bed looking at Facebook when I could be talking to my husband. So I just moved it all to the kitchen, and I enjoy that time from like 9 o'clock at night until whatever in the morning that I am free of it all.
It's the same reason people don't put televisions in their bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, we did move the TV in there.
People do put televisions in their bedrooms.
I mean, but a lot of people move them out of there because they've said that people who have the television in the bedroom tend to have less sex. And
yeah,
they
and you
tend to have
tend to
less
not sleep
communication.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard it disturbs sleep more.
Yeah, and so I mean, there's that. But then here's the thing, and I know I'm trying to land the plane here because this conversation's going long. But one of the tensions I feel is like I have this desire for community, this desire to be fully present, but I also, because I'm so used to the digital screen and the removal of being fully present, being separated from people by a screen. I feel this tension. Like I went out with a friend, Tim Storm and Curtis Storm, went to college with both of these guys at Rochester College, and good friends of mine. And Curtis Storm was in town from Colorado.
Also,
Hey.
let me just say they kind of sound like X-Men.
They kind of are.
Yeah.
Well, Tim Storm's nickname is T Storm Warning, but anyway.
Okay.
So we went out, and Curtis got on Facebook. He said, "Hey, I'm in town for a few days, or I'm leaving in a couple days. Anybody wants to get together while I'm here? Let's do it." I was great. I saw this, and I was able to connect, and so I did, and drove out to Rochester with his brother because Tim still lives here, and so we went out to Rochester to pick up his brother, and his older brother happened to be living at the house. I didn't know that. And so we were about to go to the bar, and so I invited his older brother to come. So it's the three Storm brothers and me. And after like 5 minutes of talking, even though we're friends, I felt this tension like I've run out of things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There's this tension of being present.
You get out of practice.
I'm not I realize I'm not necessarily comfortable in it, and I never really have been. I've been good at it, but I've been faking it. Where I feel this tension after 5 minutes of talking, like now I sound stupid. Now I'm stretching for for things to talk about. I feel like I'm interviewing this person by asking these questions, and it's not really coming out of friendship because I want to know. It's just I want to keep this thing moving. I don't want there to be any dead air because then it'll be awkward.
Cal, you can relate to this, I know, but I never feel more like that than I do when I'm with my 12-and-a-half-year-old niece, who would never say a word if it was
Yep.
up to her.
Yeah.
Right. I think that it's getting to the point where you have to be okay with the silence. You know? I mean, people who understand the arts of communication know that that silent space, like you don't have to fill every second, and that silent space is powerful actually. There's a lot going on in that silent space, whether it's a negotiation and the power play, you know, he who can hold his tongue holds the cards in that. You know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of things to that. Or whether it's some, you know, a couple who's, you know, flirting and there's this silence and all of the signals that are going on. I mean, there's lots going on. And we don't always have to have the need to fill it. And when you're close to people and you're comfortable with them, you don't have to. It just naturally flows. I think that it does kid us out of practice, though. Like, I mean, even like for us, like you'll talk to people all day, you know, and then I come home and I want to talk to you, and you're like, "Oh, I'm all talked out." And I'm like, "You what?" You know. And so I think it does happen. You know, I think it does happen for people. I mean, you're great, by the way. Let me not throw him under the bus. He is great. I'm more of a talker than he is, so that's not to.
She's 100% extrovert.
Yep.
100%.
That's not to throw him under the bus. He's fabulous.
Anyhow, okay. So I think this conversation is run its course. I'm uncomfortable now. I'm uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
I'm just stretching for things to say now.
And when I
don't know what to do
when
with
I
my
say-
hands. I know what to do with my hands.
when I say I never go above the third floor, basically I never get out of the theater. Okay, it's
It's a good building. It's
it's
Oh
fine.
my
I love
gosh.
it.
It's fine. Even though the last thing I saw there was Annie.